My friends, I want to ask you to do something tonight that will strike the careful, sensible part of you as almost reckless. I am going to ask you to stop being realistic, not permanently, not without understanding. I am going to ask you to stop being realistic once you have understood what realism actually is, what it is made of, what it is actually doing to you, and why the most intelligent, the most genuinely grounded, the most spiritually adult thing a human being can do is to refuse it with both hands. And by the end of tonight, I think you will refuse it, not because I have persuaded you with eloquence, but because you will have seen the mechanism clearly enough that you can no longer pretend you haven't. Let us begin with an honest examination of this word we have been taught to treat as a virtue. When someone tells you to be realistic, what are they actually telling you? They are telling you to look at what currently exists, the visible, the measurable, the already happened, and then to use that as the foundation for deciding what is possible. They are inviting you to open the ledger of your past and let it write the terms of your future. This is presented as maturity, as the hard wisdom of grown people who have learned to face things as they are. And I want to show you why it is, in fact, the single most sophisticated trap in the human experience. Your current circumstances are not the cause of your life. They are the effect. They are the residue, the physical precipitation, the already frozen form of what you have been assuming about yourself and your world, silently and faithfully, for months and years. The bank balance is not the truth of your financial reality. It is a photograph of your past assumptions about money, developed and printed by a law that never misunderstands its instructions. The relationships around you are not the verdict on your lovability. They are the accumulated harvest of what you have been quietly, habitually assuming about your worthiness of being loved. Everything visible is already the past. And when you call this past reality and consult it to decide what your future can hold, you have done something catastrophic, though it looks entirely reasonable from the outside. You have taken an effect and crowned it as a cause. You have handed the future over to the past, declared that the residue gets to determine the next planting, and then stood back and called this arrangement wisdom. This is why nothing changes. Not because the law fails. The law cannot fail. It is operating with the unfailing precision of a law of nature, with or without your awareness of it. Nothing changes because you keep assuming the same thing. You assume lack, and the law produces lack, and you look at the lack and call it proof, and you assume lack again. The loop is perfect. It is airtight. And you named it realism, so it feels not only comfortable but correct to keep running it. Here is the law, stated plainly, because I find that no amount of ornamentation improves upon clarity. Whatever you assume to be true with feeling, with the settled, unexamined inner conviction of someone for whom the thing simply is, that assumption becomes your experience. Not what you wish for from a distance. Not what you affirm out loud while quietly doubting underneath. What you assume, the private, often unconscious, deeply ingrained belief about what the world is, who you are, and what you deserve to live. Consciousness, the creative substance of all reality, receives this assumption and constructs accordingly. With the obedience of a mirror and the precision of a law, it reflects back in outer form what you are broadcasting in inner form. Not sometimes, always. It does not reward the virtuous or punish the struggling. It simply agrees. Whatever you present to it as the truth of things, it responds, granted. Here is the evidence. More of this, confirmed. This is why the person who assumes they are unlucky finds the universe extraordinarily cooperative in providing evidence of bad luck. This is why the person who assumes money is hard lives in a world where money is, in fact, remarkably hard. This is why the person who assumes they are ultimately abandoned by everyone they love finds, with heart-rending consistency, the evidence waiting. They are not being punished, they are being obeyed. And this is the moment I want you to see with absolute clarity, they point at the evidence and say, I'm just being realistic. But they are not being realistic. They are being recursive. They are watching their own assumption return to them in material form and mistaking it for proof. They are standing in front of a mirror, seeing a frown reflected back, and spending their energy trying to convince the reflection to change its expression, arguing with it, bargaining with it, explaining to it why it should look different. And it never does. It never can. Because the reflection is not where the choice lives. The choice lives in you, only in you. Always only in you. I want to say something about faith, because it is perhaps the most misunderstood word in the vocabulary of human experience. You are exercising faith at every moment of your life. This is not optional. The mind does not have a position of neutrality from which it observes reality without assumption. It is an assumption-making instrument that does not come with an off switch. You are always assuming something. The only question that has ever mattered is, what? And most people, I say this with profound compassion, because I have seen it in myself as much as in anyone, place their faith with the devotion of saints in exactly the conditions they say they want to escape. They wake up and, with the practiced reliability of a religious devotion, assume their life is hard. They open their banking application and assume there is never enough. They look in the mirror and assume they are lacking something essential. They walk into the same room and assume the same outcome. This is not cynicism. It is not even despair. It is faithfulness, a deep, habitual, completely sincere fidelity to the conditions that surround them, which they have elevated from effects to causes and are now actively worshipping as the truth of their situation. And the law, which does not evaluate the content of your assumption, only its conviction, only its constancy, responds with the same reliability it always has. Very well. This is what you are committed to. More of this confirmed. You cannot escape this by having no faith. You escape it only by redirecting your faith deliberately, persistently, with full understanding of what you are doing toward the assumption that actually corresponds to the life you want to live. This is not bypassing reality. This is understanding what reality is made of, and choosing, with the only genuine freedom available to a human being, to make something different from it. Now, I want to take you somewhere that I find most people resist, because it asks something of them that feels uncomfortably large. The world you can see, the chair beneath you, the room around you, the city beyond your window, every piece of material civilization that has ever existed in human history, none of it was there before someone imagined it. The building, the road, the language, the medicine, the music, every single thing that has graduated from the invisible to the visible did so by passing through one door, and one door only: the imagination of a human being who dared to conceive of it before it existed. Your life is governed by the same law. Your circumstances were imagined into existence, not always deliberately, usually not. Usually through the thousand small, unguarded, habitual imaginings of an ordinary day. The worry you carried through the morning. The sigh you let out when you opened the inbox. The quiet, familiar certainty so automatic it barely registered as a thought that, of course, this would happen to me. The story you told yourself in the car, in the shower, in the silence between one moment and the next. Each of these is a seed. Every seed, watered with feeling and time, becomes the harvest. Your inner life is not the small, private, irrelevant theater you were taught to believe it was, the part of you that happens underneath the important things, the part you tend to when the real business of life has been handled. Your inner life is the life. It is the only realm where creation actually occurs. The outer world is the echo, always trailing behind, always catching up to what has already been decided in the invisible. When you understand this not as an interesting idea, but as a living, operational truth, you understand that the practice I am pointing toward is not escapism. It is the most direct engagement with reality available to you. Everything else, the strategy, the effort, the careful management of appearances, is rearranging the echo while ignoring the source. The practice is to take the source back, to stop being a passive audience in your own imaginative life and become its deliberate author. Let me show you, with precision, what most people do wrong because the error is subtle enough that it feels like the right thing, and that is exactly what makes it so effective at keeping people stuck. You have a desire, you bring it to mind, and most people, when they do this, position themselves at a careful distance from the thing they want. They stand outside it and look at it. They picture it as an object in the future over there, separated from them by time and effort and the unknown. They long for it. They visualize it as a scene they are watching from the outside. They send it feeling, they send it wanting, they send it the genuinely earnest hope that it will one day arrive. And the law, that obedient mirror, reflects back with perfect accuracy the exact state they are broadcasting, the state of wanting. And so they receive more wanting, more distance, more of the gap between themselves and what they desire. Because wanting something is, at its core, an announcement that you do not have it. It broadcasts lack on every frequency. And the mirror, faithful as gravity, confirms the lack it has been shown. This is the confusion between wishing and dwelling. And the distinction is everything. To dwell in the wish fulfilled is not to look at your desire from the outside. It is to move inside it, to relocate in imagination, which is the only realm that actually counts into the life in which the desire is already fulfilled. To walk around in it, to feel the ordinary texture of a day in which the thing you are longing for has long since ceased to be longed for, and has become simply the way things are. What does the room feel like? Not the room you are imagining arriving in the room you have lived in long enough to stop noticing. Your room. The view from your window that you barely glance at anymore. The particular quality of morning light in the house that is yours. The casual way you move through a day in which what you wanted has become what you have, unremarkable, familiar, quietly satisfying in the way that only things we already possess can be. Feel the boredom of it. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but that casual, settled, unspecular of courseness, the feeling that the thing simply is, rather than the feeling that it might one day arrive, that is the state the law responds to. Not the excitement of longing, not the urgent, grasping energy of someone trying to attract, the unhurried certainty of someone who already has. When you can feel even 30 seconds of that before sleep, you have done something of immense creative power. You have changed your address. You have moved, in the only realm where it matters, into the life you desire. And the outer world, which is only ever catching up to where your imagination has already been, will begin quietly, gradually, and then with sudden unmistakable momentum to find you there. I will not deceive you about what comes next, because if you are not prepared for it, it will seem like evidence that the law has failed you, and you will abandon the new assumption just as it was beginning to take root. When you begin to live from the wish fulfilled, the outer world does not change immediately. The conditions around you, the bills, the empty spaces, the unchanged circumstances remain what they are. And your mind, which has been trained over many years to scan for evidence of the familiar, will look at these conditions and begin to argue with you. This is not working. You are fooling yourself. Come back. This is what is real. This is the gap. And every person who has ever genuinely changed their life has had to walk through it, not around it. Through it on faith, in the sustained assumption, in the quiet refusal to let the current reflection determine the final word. Here is what I want you to understand about the gap, because this understanding will carry you across it when nothing else will. The unchanged conditions are not evidence that the law has failed. They are evidence that it is working exactly as it always has, and that the old assumption, which you have been holding for months or years, has woven itself deeply into your circumstances and requires time to gracefully unweave. The outer world is not slow to respond because the law is unreliable. It is slow because the law is consistent, and it is now in the process of becoming consistent with something new. Think of it as the interval between planting and harvest. Nothing about the silence of the soil in the first weeks suggests the seed is not growing. The work is happening entirely in the dark, In the invisible, precisely where all real creation happens. The absence of visible movement is not absence of movement. It is the movement that precedes all visible movement, the formation of roots before the green shoot appears, the arranging of invisible conditions before the outer circumstances shift. Your job in the gap is not to produce evidence. Evidence is the outer world's job, and it will do it in its own right timing. Your job is to remain, to persist in the new assumption, to return to it every time the old one reasserts itself, which it will, reliably, like a tide that has not yet understood it is being redirected, and every return counts. Every choice to hold the new state instead of the old one is a deposit in an account whose balance you cannot yet see, but which is accumulating with the precision of a law. The person who returns to the assumption 10,000 times and slips away from it 10,000 times will still, ultimately manifest because they keep coming back. The only one who does not manifest is the one who abandons the seed entirely and concludes that nothing is growing in the very darkness where everything is. Someone is listening to this with their arms crossed, and I know who they are because I respect them. They are the ones who have been hurt by hope, the ones who tried something like this before and waited and were disappointed, the ones for whom the careful, measured voice of realism is not laziness, but a kind of emotional self-preservation, a way of keeping the pain of failed expectation within manageable limits. They are going to ask, is this not simply self-deception? Is this not, at bottom, a way of lying to yourself? And my answer is, yes, in a technical sense it is. But here is what I want to say to this person, with complete honesty. You are already doing it. You have been doing it every day of your life. When you say, I am not the kind of person who, that is not a fact. That is a story you have told yourself long enough and consistently enough that it has solidified into something that feels factual. When you say, this is just how my family is, or things like this never work out for me, or I always end up alone, these are not descriptions of unchanging reality. They are assumptions you have held with such conviction and repetition that the mirror has been faithfully providing the evidence to match them. And you have looked at that evidence and called it just how things are. So if you are going to assume something, and you are, because you cannot stop, because the mind does not have a neutral position from which it observes, without assuming, then I ask you the plainest possible question. Why would you assume the lesser version? Why would you, given the choice between two assumptions, choose the one that produces the smaller life, the one that hurts, the one that confirms your worst fears about yourself and the world? Assume better, not as a performance, not as a desperate affirmation spoken through clenched teeth, but as a genuine, private, deeply personal decision to dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled, to live inwardly and persistently as the person for whom what you desire is simply the ordinary texture of things. This is not childishness. This is not arrogance. This is not the avoidance of difficulty or the refusal to engage with life as it is. It is the most genuinely responsible act available to a human being. It is the act of someone who has understood that they are the cause, not the effect, and who has decided to exercise that causative power with intention rather than by accident. The truly delusional position is the one most people are living in right now. Assuming poverty while waiting to become wealthy. Assuming loneliness while waiting to be loved. Assuming limitation while waiting to be free. That is the incoherence. That is the confusion of cause and effect that keeps lives locked in patterns that seem inexplicable from the outside, but are, from within, as mechanically inevitable as anything in nature. I want to tell you something that will save you years of searching. There is no technique you have not yet discovered that will change your life. There is no visualization practice, no method, no morning ritual, no sequence of words spoken in the right order that holds the secret you have been looking for. Every legitimate teaching I have ever encountered, followed to its root, is pointing toward a single capacity. Not a gift, not a talent, not something available only to those with a particular temperament or background or level of spiritual development. Persistence. Persistence in the assumption. Persistence in the inner state. Persistence in the quiet, unglamorous, unwitnessed daily choice to return to the wish fulfilled, not because the evidence supports it, not because you feel inspired, not because the conditions have shifted sufficiently to make it feel reasonable, but because you have understood the law and you have made a decision. The people who actually change their lives, not the ones who understand these principles intellectually and nod along, and then continue in the old patterns, are not more gifted than you. They are not more chosen. They did not discover a superior technique. They simply learned to remain. They learned what it means to plant something in consciousness and leave it alone long enough to grow. They became comfortable in the gap. They stopped treating the silence of the soil as evidence of an empty field. Most people fail not because they cannot imagine the wish fulfilled. They can. They do for an evening, sometimes for a week. They fail because they cannot remain in that imagination when life continues to show them the old conditions. They imagine the new state on Monday. They return to the old assumption by Wednesday. And then they wonder why their circumstances have the eerie quality of a room that never quite changes. The assumption is the seed. Persistence is the soil that holds it while it grows. And the only gardening era that truly matters is the one where you keep digging the seed up to check whether it has taken root. Each time you notice you have slipped back into the old assumption, and you will notice many times, especially at first, do not punish yourself for it. The slip is not the failure. The slip is the natural movement of a mind that has been running a particular program for a long time and has not yet fully installed the new one. The only failure would be to stop returning. Return. Quietly, without drama, without the performance of renewed effort. Simply return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the way you return to a room you know well. You have been here before. You know what it feels like. Return. Each return is a vote, and the law counts the votes, not the slips. I want to close with something that I believe you already know. In the place where genuine knowledge lives, there is a version of you, not a fantasy version, not a perfect or untroubled version, but a free version, a version that is living from the wish fulfilled, that has stopped treating the past as a prerequisite for the future, that has been patient with you, that has been there on the other side of your old assumptions, waiting with the particular quality of patience that belongs to something that knows it is inevitable. That self is real, not in the sense that it already exists in physical form somewhere, waiting for you to find it. Real in the sense that it is the natural expression of your consciousness when it is no longer organized around the old assumptions. Real in the sense that the moment you genuinely stop dwelling in what was and begin dwelling in what is already accomplished in imagination, that self begins to emerge not as something new, but as something remembered, as the truer shape of who you have been beneath all the layers that were never really yours. The world does not need more realists. It is not suffering from a shortage of people willing to consult their past before deciding what their future can hold. It has an abundance of those. They are the ones who mean well and love you, and will gently suggest that you be sensible, that you protect yourself, that you lower your expectations to something achievable given the evidence currently available. They are reading from a script written by their own assumptions, and they are, in their way, being completely faithful to it. You do not need to argue with them. You do not need to convert them. You simply need to understand, with the quiet certainty of one who has seen the mechanism clearly, that their version of realism is not the last word on what is possible for you. Stop consulting the past to design the future. The past has had its turn. It brought you here. If you want somewhere different, you must consult somewhere different, and the only place somewhere different exists is in your imagination. Assume the wish fulfilled. Not tomorrow, not when the conditions shift sufficiently to make it feel rational. Tonight, in the silence, in the privacy of the only realm where your life is actually created, move into it. Walk around in it. Feel the ordinary texture of a day in which what you desired is simply what is. And then remain, through the gap, through the unchanged conditions, through the voice that will tell you to be realistic. Remain, because the life you were made for is not on the other side of enough effort, or the right strategy, or the accumulation of sufficient evidence that it is safe to hope. It is on the other side of one decision, made and remade, day after day, until it becomes the unshakable architecture of who you are. The decision to assume nothing less than the life you actually came here to live. Good evening, and may you sleep tonight in the feeling of the wish already fulfilled, not as a wish, but as a fact, already accomplished in the only realm where accomplishment begins. This is Neville Lectures. I'll see you again in the next video.